Hi everyone, I hope you're well. So today's video is not your typical leave work on time, make sure you get enough sleep, make sure you use all your annual leave type video about work-life balance. Today I'm really going to be delving deep into understanding how we consciously spend our time in and outside of work, how we figure out what's important to us, what's influencing the choices that we're making, and how to get the very best use out of our time, how to get our own work-life balance so that we can enjoy the time that we have here and minimize our chances of getting burnt out. I'm going to give you the formula that you can apply to make sure that you never have to ask yourself, how do I get a better work-life balance for myself again. Before we get started, if you're new here, make sure you click the subscribe button and the notification bell so that you can get notified each time I upload a new video. Alright, let's get started. Every country in the world has a different amount of paid annual leave days. In the UK, we get about 5.5 to 6 weeks of paid leave we can take. In the US, mind-bogglingly, there is no legal minimal amount of time that you can take off from work and be paid for. I don't really know how that happens. In China, it can be as low as 5 days, in Japan as low as 10, and in India as low as 12. How do we build a life and an identity outside of work? How do we juggle all of the responsibilities that we have in that small fraction of time outside of work? So, the quest for striking a balance and why it is important. I touched upon work-life balance a little bit in my last video, and I really feel that it is one of the most important skills that we can have, that we can master in order to feel truly happy and satisfied and fulfilled in our lives. What we spend time doing shapes who we are. It constructs our identity. It gives us purpose and a sense of belonging to something greater than ourselves. What we do for a job is not and never should be solely who we are. The sum of what we do, whether consciously or unconsciously, is what defines us. Research in occupational science shows us that having a good balance of all of the things that we want and need to be able to do in life, our occupations, leads to a greater sense of well-being. Simply put, if we can't do the things that we want and need to do, we're not going to be feeling like our happiest, healthiest selves. I think COVID really showed that to all of us when it stopped us being able to do the things that we enjoyed doing or that we needed to do. Assuming we work for 8 hours a day and we sleep for 8 hours a day, that leaves us 8 remaining hours to fit everything else in. That time is not free time. That time is time for caring responsibilities, life admin, cooking, chores, self-care. So achieving a perfect work-life balance isn't something we should be aspiring to because it doesn't exist. What we can do is figure out how to improve and make the most use out of our time to understand what we want and what we need better so that we can minimize our chances of getting burnt out. We have to understand what we value before we try to set our priorities. If we're setting our priorities for somebody else and we're neglecting our own needs, we're only going to be heading towards dissatisfaction. For example, if you value recognition in your field and it's really important for you to have a certain credential, have a certain job title, get this specific promotion, then you know you're probably more prepared to take on more overtime and make more sacrifices for a brief period of time to get you there. Then you can figure out the practicalities and consciously figure out how you're going to spend your time to get just enough of what you need while still staying focused on your goal. On the other hand, if you think about your values and you really value your passion for running or spending more time with your family or your church or whatever it is that's important to you. Yes, you still need to work and make money in order to survive, but your plan is probably going to involve some much stricter boundaries around work and around what you say yes or no to, so that you can maximize your time outside of work. Success is subjective. Until we truly know what we value and what's important to us, then how can we know what makes us successful? We're able to design our own work-life balance or our own work-life ratio when we know what is important and meaningful to us. We can't have it all. Life always involves sacrifices. Sacrifices based on the priorities that we have in that given moment in time. When we try to have it all and we're unconsciously sacrificing everything that's important to us to get us there, that's what can lead to burnout. When you speak to people who have had burnout, you notice that they never go back to living their lives in the same way again. Why? Because burnout taught them what their limits were, what their boundaries need to be, and how to be more conscious about how they're spending their time. We put our bodies through so much and we expect that we can just keep taking it all of the time. And burnout is our body's way of saying, no, my friend, you cannot. Our bodies know the score long before our awareness catches up with it. It's a lesson learned the hard way, but it's a powerful lesson to learn nonetheless. The next stage is to plan. The planning stage involves setting boundaries, knowing our limitations, our things that we're prepared to sacrifice, the things that we're not prepared to sacrifice, and a timescale for how long we're going to give to try these changes. We always have to have a plan. If we don't have a plan, we're more likely to be sucked into the habitual pattern of overworking, being overstressed, because that is just the nature of the money-making society that we live in. It takes a real conscious effort to break the mold and find what works for us. Sometimes we overwork because we've actually forgotten who we are and what we like to do outside of work. When we know what we value and what our priorities are, the priorities that we want to have, not just the ones that we feel like we should have, then we can work on planning how we intentionally spend our time, how we can be as productive as possible with our time, and how to get as much from our time as we feel that we need. If we know that something is going to throw us off balance for a while and we're okay with that, then we need to plan how long that while is going to last so that it doesn't become a habit. Obviously, we can't just ignore the things that we have to do and we can't muster up more time, but we have two options there. We can either find a way to find peace, gratitude, acceptance, maybe even some enjoyment for the things that we have to do, or we can figure out how to try and change those things. We can't always change our immediate situation, but we can always change our mindset. Now I'm going to say that again because this is something that I need to hear and remind myself of, and I'm sure you do too. We can't always change our immediate situation, but we can always change our mindset. If you're in a situation where you feel like, I don't want to be here, I'm trapped. Are you trapped forever? Where would you rather be and how can you get there? What can you realistically change? What small parts of the puzzle are you in control of? What can you say no to? What boundaries can you put into place to protect yourself? What adjustments can you make to buy yourself more time? What are you prepared to sacrifice? What are you not prepared to sacrifice? We have to know the answers to these questions if we're going to be able to change our situation. Once we have our plan and we've gone with it for a while, then we need to check in and see how it's going. What's working well, what isn't working, what can we change, if anything. It's impossible to have a consistent work-life balance because life is never consistent. Prioritizing life over work or work over life becomes habitual, and habits take time and effort to change. It's useful to set reminders every couple of months or so to prompt us to return to our values, to our priorities, to our plan. Are we staying true to this? What needs tweaking? I find it helpful to have everything written down somewhere I can see and check back regularly. I don't know about you, but when I don't see something visually and frequently, I kind of forget it exists. The planning stage, I think, is definitely the hardest and probably the most time-consuming part of the process, but once you've done it once, when you go back to the revision stages, it will be a lot quicker and easier. Just a quick recap, the 4 stages to help you improve your work-life balance, improve your time spent on this earth, improve your relationships with others, are the following. Values, priorities, plan, revision / reassess. Remember, I love to hear from you, so please let me know in the comment section down below how you manage your work-life balance. Do you feel like you have a good balance, or is work or life taking over? Remember to subscribe if you haven't already and click the notification bell so that you get notified every time I upload a video. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you again next time. Then you can figure out the practicalities and make sure you're consciously, why can't I remember any words at all?